Hey Sam, guess what?
What?
We're seeing ghosts again.
Yes, we are. Yep. Andrew, very happy that Ghost is back in the lineup, even though, we're recording this right after that Montreal loss. Boy, that's probably one of the most frustrating games of the season.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find a game where a team played better and lost by more than one goal. I think Carolina, for the majority of this game, was absolutely dominant. So
Mhm.
between that and me being a Duke fan, we're recording it just after that blunder of a game against UConn. So frustrating night for me personally.
I bet it was very frustrating. Well, as usual, remember we have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off your first purchase if you use promo code Caniac Reports, all one word. It's a great deal if you're trying to save money on some tickets. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And also, if you're listening to us wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a rating and a review. Really, again, it really helps us out. So, Andrew, couple of NHL news. One of them happened today,
Mhm.
actually, with Bruce Cassidy being fired from the Vegas Golden Knights. Andrew, they have not been playing good. You would think that's their division to lose. So I understand it a little bit, but considering they're still in a playoff spot, I will admit I think that's a little bit of a gamble there.
It's definitely a unorthodox move at this point in the season, but
Yes.
I mean, you bring in a guy like John Tortorella, who's kind of famous for getting the best out of a group until he eventually gets on their nerves. So, veteran team like Vegas, that might be just what they need.
Oh yeah, definitely. Again, like I'm not surprised, but am because of the timing, and you would think, Andrew, with the way that Pacific Division is, like you have Eichel, Marner, and the defense behind them. You would think they'd be a very good team, but they're struggling.
Yeah, with no disrespect intended to the Ducks, the fact that they're likely going to win that division, the rest of that division should be absolutely ashamed of themselves because yeah, I think the Ducks have shown that they are ahead of schedule in their rebuild, but that shouldn't be a team that's locking up, playing against a wild card team. That just shouldn't be happening.
It really shouldn't. It should be like Vegas number one, Edmonton two. But Vegas, they need to watch it, Andrew, because they do have LA and Seattle kind of right behind them. You just never know. They could not make the playoffs at all.
Yep, they could find themselves on the outside looking in real quickly. Easily the worst division in hockey. That being said, watch one of those teams get hot at the right moment and go on a run in the playoffs. As long as you get in, that's why it's the greatest tournament in
Yep. Hmm.
sports. Anybody could win.
Exactly. John Tortorella, you think he's going to help that team? I know there's been because I remember I was reading an article on the Athletic, Andrew, and they said in terms of the players poll that they had, John Tortorella was not ranked high in terms of players in terms of coach likeness.
Yeah, I think so. For what Vegas is doing, I think he makes sense. I wouldn't maybe bring Torts in for long term. That being said, again, I think Vegas being such a veteran filled team,
Yes.
having a coach like that just is more received. There's not
Hmm.
quite that same need for like building up players. Like say when he was in Philadelphia, I think maybe that just newer generation, older generation, how they approach things. There's a
Yeah.
whole tangent that both sides of the aisle are going to make valid points about, but for short term, just kind of getting them into gear. I mean, if Vegas is looking at the way that we are right now, that it's kind of wide open for them. If they could just figure out playing up to their potential, then why not try a guy like Torts?
Exactly. We'll see how that goes. I do think of all the teams, Andrew. Vegas. I agree with you. They're a very veteran heavy team. Maybe they could use some John Tortorella on that team. That'd be very interesting to see moving forward with Vegas. And the next thing I want to talk about, Andrew, is a player that we know growing up, but for the past several seasons he has not been playing the NHL. But apparently, news reported Yamir Yager is officially retiring. I just had to bring that up just because he is such an iconic player, Andrew. The fact that he was still playing in pro hockey in another league at the age of 50 something is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure of course now that we're talking about fogging the details, but I'm pretty sure a big reason he was playing is so that the club that he's playing for wouldn't fold. Like it's that level of he just loves the sport, loves his hometown enough that he wants to keep things that he's involved with going. But such an icon of the game, man. Like I think maybe talent wise he's not quite in that Gretzky Lemieux category, but he's got to be the top of that like second tier of players
Oh,
just for their
yes.
impact on the game.
Yes, definitely. So, with him retiring from pro hockey, Noah, congrats. What a great, very, very long career that you had of playing hockey, regardless if it's in the NHL or not. So, those were the only couple things I want to talk about from around the league, Andrew, unless you have anything you want to talk about.
Nope. Just we'll say it again. Congrats to a Yarmir Yager. Just a super impressive feat to play that long. Never mind the level that he did. Truly one of the all time greats.
He definitely is. So let's get to talking about the Hurricanes. There are a couple things I just want to talk about, then we'll get to the games because we do have two games. One, obviously, the great news. We mentioned in the one liner Shayne Gostisbhere back in the lineup. Boy, Andrew, whenever he's back in the lineup, he makes such a big difference.
Yeah, and that impact was felt almost immediately. Really impressive on his part to really not show, much, if any, signs of rust in his first two games.
I know.
Obviously, the first game it showed up on the box score more, but yeah, I think the difference he makes in being able to contribute offensively is such a difference maker for this team. But I think a moment to acknowledge Mike Riley and how well he stepped up to
Yes.
the plate over this chunk. Yeah, I give Riley a lot of credit. I was kind of calling for Nystrom to be the seventh D a couple of weeks ago, and I think he's kind of earned back that faith from the fans.
He really has. And Ghost playing with Nikishin, that pair has been very good, Andrew. And I'm sure, like, even with Nikishin, his partner, he's playing some of the most impressive hockey recently in these past couple of games.
Yeah, on the defensive side, especially, the offense has
Yes.
always been there, especially as he's, continued to just get a little bit quicker with his decision making, a little bit more, less reacting, more just kind of playing his game. We've been seeing that side take strides, but he's gone from being at times even a liability in his
Yes.
own end to now it's at least net neutral. I still think there's a lot of room for him for improvement, especially when it comes to keeping guys out of the crease. I think that might be the single biggest thing he needs to work on in his game. But the strides that the Kishin has taken this year gives me just so much hope for the future with him, and the present's pretty awesome too.
It really is. And if you remember that New Jersey game, Andrew, like he went to like beast mode a couple times of just juking a few New Jersey players. Now, granted, it's New Jersey, but still, you like seeing him just going into the offensive zone and showing that flair skating wise, because skating has been a bit of an issue for him. But he seems to be a little bit more quicker these past two games. The biggest thing is can he be consistent with that?
Right. Consistency is the biggest question with him. The one play in particular, I think you're referencing, where he basically takes it from one side of the ice to the other and just barely misses on a
Yes.
beautiful one timer to Hall.
Yep.
Super impressive. But again, it's that confidence. It's that confidence, that decisiveness. That's what's allowing him to make these plays. It's always been in there. I think Nikishin, the only limit's his mental, because even with yeah, he's not the greatest skater, but we've been seeing him more and more just kind of putting himself in better positions to be able to accommodate for that. So I think the only limit to Nikishin is himself, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one thing, the other thing I want to talk about is, I mean, at one point it kind of decreased a little bit in the New Jersey game after the first power play. But at one point, Andrew, I mean, we got to talk about this. 50% on the power play for the past quite few games. Man, it has been so good.
Yeah, they must have secretly gone out and got that power play coach everyone was calling for. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
explain it. Um, Jordan Stahl has been an absolute revelation on the man advantage. Svetch, the season he's having goes without saying, but really, I think it boils down to how Nick Ehlers has been able to find two different roles on this team. One being on the line with Stahl and Martinook, where he is kind of the offense there, but has been playing very admirably in the defensive end, all while still developing this chemistry with the higher end guys that's making the power play click the way it has. So, I know people are still kind of bummed about the trade deadline being a little bit quiet, but maybe in hindsight, we can look at it and say, well, they made the biggest pickup that they needed to make up when they signed Ehlers in the offseason.
Yes, and Keandre Miller. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I, the, it's weird. So I think everybody agrees with Ehlers. Like, he is perfect fit. He's like, I think if you did like a power rankings of all the players, Ehlers is probably one or two, because I think him and Ghost are just playing again at another level.
Mm-hmm.
But with, I lost my train of thought. Dang it. What was I talking about again?
About Ehlers being the top rated guy.
Oh yeah, like Ehlers. I mean, that was a great addition. Everybody agrees, but it seems like there's a little bit more of a divide with Miller. I think amongst Canes fans, and to be honest, I've liked what I've seen from Miller, but I do think at times we've seen him go into beast mode, and I think we just want to see that a little bit more. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. There's some players that for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a body language thing, if it's just when he does get caught out of position is really bad. Whenever Keandre is, kind of the guy who can get blamed for a scoring opportunity, it always
Yes.
seems like it's a pretty egregious mess up. But again, we've been saying it all season. I think it's going to take maybe even this entire year for him to get all those bugs out of his game. But even if he doesn't, man, just the length he has with those poke checks, and we've seen it really come to fruition recently. His ability to get up on the rush immediately, even without making the breakout pass, just with his own athletic ability. I think that's going to continue to grow. And we know that Rod wants these defensemen to be part of the rush, and I think he's built for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's that comparison with Miller, obviously, when you talk about him with Brady Shea, that quite a few fans will probably bring up, you know, because both of them came from playing with the Rangers, and even Rod Brennan. I'm sure you saw the little mini video that they put out with them scouting Keandre Miller. So I mean, they even said they saw shades of Shea in his game, and I think he can become that. But I'm sure you'll agree he's not at that level now.
Not yet, but I mean, let's not forget it took Brady
It did.
almost an entire season to get to that point too. I remember when we first traded for him that first off season because we gave up a first round pick for him. I
Hmm.
remember at the time that was very unpopular. Fast forward a couple of seasons, and I think you would make that trade, every time
Oh
now.
yes.
But I just think that just because of his skating ability, his reach, I think he fits what this team wants to do, man. I think sometimes his what's a good way to say this? His body language and his kind of neutral facial expression sometimes I think make people think that he wasn't trying as hard as he could have. But I think that's just because he's just kind of a long gangly guy that just happens. But I'm really happy with what we've seen from Miller this season. And the only thing I want to see now is come playoff time, can you add that little bit of nastiness?
Exactly, because he has the physicalness. He just needs to use it. Kind of like with Nikishin and his shooting ability. Need to see that slapper a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but I mean, going back to that last playoff series the Hurricanes played against Rangers when Miller was still there, I think he stood out a lot
He
in
did.
that series. That was, I knew who the player was. My last name's Miller too, so you see a guy with the same last
Yeah.
name, you notice him. But yeah, when I heard we were getting him, that was where my head went. Is just how impactful he was in that last Rangers series. Um, and part of it was his kind of nastiness after the whistle. And the Canes have their own way that they want to do it, which
Hmm.
for the most part I agree with that mentality, but there needs to be more than we've seen in the past. And I think this season we've seen kind of hints that maybe this year is going to be a little different.
Yes, definitely. Well, Andrew, I'm still waiting for a player to be playing pretty good, whether it's for us or against us, with the last name of Wallace. So
Maybe someday, maybe
yeah,
someday.
maybe someday. All right, so we're gonna get to a sponsor, and then we'll be recapping both the Devils and the Canadians games. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers, bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026. NHL. All rights reserved. All right, Andrew, let's start with something more happier. A little bit more happy. Because obviously, the Devils game, unlike the Canadians game, we were a little bit more happy after that game. So, the Devils game, Andrew, heading into this is a game that you should win because the Devils are not playing good, even though, well, you look at the standings, they're not playing good as of recently. New Jersey has been playing pretty good, but regardless, they're a beatable team. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Very beatable. But that being said, they're a team that, knows that they're on the outside looking in. They know that they've lost their first three matchups against Carolina. And this is, definitely a rivalry that's picked up some steam over the years with, the recent playoff series. So
Yep.
there's no doubt that New Jersey came into this with, a little bit of pride on the line. And I think they did show it. In particular, I remember there were a couple of hits that Dougie of all people laid that weren't dirty by any means, but they were definitely aggressive for what you would expect from Dougie Hamilton. So I think that this game did mean something to New Jersey. So I don't think we should take away from how impressive of a performance this was from Carolina.
It really was. Now, first period, Andrew, I'm sure you agree. Carolina looked probably like they haven't played since, what was it, Tuesday? They
Mm-hmm.
looked really rusty in that first period.
Yeah, 3 days off at this point in the year, it's bound to happen a little bit, but how quick can you
Mhm.
knock that rust off? I think is a sign of good teams, and the fact that they turned around and had maybe their most dominant second period in quite some time. Hey, we'll take it.
Yeah. Now, you did have Myers scoring on Brandon Bussey, and this was another discussion, too, heading into this game. How is Bussey going to perform? I mean, I don't, I mean, what do you think of that goal that Myers scored on with Bussey?
I don't think Bussy had a whole lot of a chance on it. One of those savable but not a bad goal kind of goals. But overall, I think we leave this game with as a game where Bussy maybe is starting to trend in the right direction.
Yes. And that was the thing that I was thinking about the most when we won this game. Again, I'm happy that our players scored goals and all, but the fact that Buzzy played a good, solid game, it just puts confidence back in him, puts confidence back in the players in front of him, and obviously into us as fans. I think the biggest thing, Andrew, is let's just hope it continues with him playing solid and building his confidence back up.
Yep, that's the biggest thing I'm watching for down the home stretch. Obviously wins are important. I want to see hopefully both goaltenders continue to build on their game, and you just want to see the structure of the team itself just really kind of lock in right now. Results are great, but right now I'm super detail process oriented in how I'm
Mhm.
watching these games. And the last handful, I've liked our goaltending. Even that last one against Montreal. It's a weird thing to say when you give up 5 goals, but like I didn't think a lot of those were Freddie's fault. So both goalies trending in the right direction. Hopefully they can continue to grow on it because neither are quite where we want them to be yet.
Yeah, I completely agree. But obviously, we knew in the second period and in the third period, Carolina finally got back to their game. You have Ehlers scoring from Nikishin and Hall. That's on the power play. We already talked about how great the power play's been. Just a great snipe. You have Blake scoring from Hall and Gostisbhere. And Andrew, what's funny about that Blake goal, I seriously thought he was going to pass it to Stankoven. But he was like, "Nope, I'm gonna put it right between the post and his pad," and he did.
Yeah, really smart play by Blake. I think of all the young guys on this team, I think his ceiling's the highest. I think, there's a chance this might just be who he is, just a super smart player who can
Hmm.
take advantage of it on plays like that. But that goal that was a Nick Ehlers goal, just the patience with
It
the puck,
was.
the holding on to it. And I agree with you. I think when he cuts to the front like that, he is looking to make that pass. But the slot's clogged with defenders. But oh, look at that. There's a tiny little bit of space between the goalie's skate and the far post and just creeps it right through there. So just a super smart play by Blake. And I'm really curious to see what he looks like in 3 to 4 years when he reaches his prime because he's got all the intelligence and all the hustle to be like a bona fide top 6 player. I mean, he's already on the second line, but some would debate that it's actually the third line because of the stall and that whole dynamic. But I
It needs to be the second line, I think, if you're trying to win the Stanley Cup, though.
yeah, for sure. But that line in general might be the most dangerous line these last few games. I think the top line has been creating chances, but they've been a little bit snake bitten lately.
They have. My only concern with that second line, I was going to save this for later, but since we're already talking about it, my only concern is the lack of size
Hmm.
because I could see them getting pushed around. And I thought we kind of. Here's the thing I thought they played great against Montreal. But I thought they got pushed around a little bit too. And it's just like
Hmm.
one of those things where I could see it happening in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a line that has a potential to go a collective +3 on a night or a collective -3. Just it's
Yes.
I think when they're on their game, when they play mistake-free hockey, they can get a lot of stuff done. It's definitely a line that will build momentum and energy for the team, which you love to see. But just because of that lack of size, and for at least 2 of them, the youth factor, where there's going to be mistakes made just
Oh
based on
yes.
on that alone. Um, yeah, I think whichever defensive pair is out with them, that they need to be more than any other line on that team. They need to be ready to get back and in a hurry.
Oh yeah. And then obviously in the third period, Ghost first game back, he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna skate up the ice and just shoot it. He scores, and my gosh. Like, I mean, we already talked about Ghost, so I'm not gonna explain it too much, but man, he just continues his point scoring tread with what 46 points in 45 games, I think. The only biggest thing is he just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I mean, first impressions of these two games, it looks like they kept them out long enough. Knock on wood, but I mean, the skating has looked sharp. He hasn't had any trouble, stopping or keeping the puck on his edges. So seems healthy. Knock on wood, because there's very few players on this team that I think that without him, that this team has no chance to go on any type of significant run. Never mind winning the cup.
No, yeah, I completely agree. He's become that important on this team. And
Hmm.
then you have Jarvis scoring on the empty net with an assist from Walker and Jarvis. Now, here's the thing: Dadonov scored for New Jersey, but I think if you look at the context of that game, like the game was over and done with, even with him scored. So to me, I just see it as like, yeah, I hate that Bussy probably maybe let that in, but it's just listen, they knew they were going to win. It's completely different if it became 2-3. You know, Canes were already up 5-1. They were going to win.
Yeah, so I think the team collectively took a breath. I think the worst thing that came from that is that Bussy's stats don't look as good as it should. But I
Yeah,
mean, big picture, who really cares? All Bussy
exactly.
does is win. That's kind of been his thing since he got here. But yeah, just you got to take it as step by step, him building back that confidence that he had to start the year. Because for whatever reason, the Olympic break seemed to have just taken all of his mojo. So I think this is two games in a row now, this one in particular, where you're just slowly starting to see that come back. Because this game in particular, I felt he wasn't doing as much, flailing for the puck when he was swimming, wasn't,
Mhm.
making kind of haphazard moves to play the puck. It was very calm. It was just position sound goaltending. And I think if he can stick to that, if he can stay with that calm demeanor and just kind of let the game come to him, I think he's going to be okay.
I do too. So we're happy. And now we're sad. Because, Andrew,
Such is
the
life.
con- such is life, yes. You get goalied. And I will admit, like, I understand maybe getting goalied by the same goalie once, okay. But getting goalied by the same goalie twice, I'm sorry, but that's a little bit inexcusable.
It's definitely concerning when it's a team that I
You can
wouldn't be.
face in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I would not be shocked at all if that's who they wind up seeing in the second round. Not even a little bit.
And we
Is that
knew
a
this was a big game.
yeah? And that's what's kind of it's so hard to read games like this, because to me this is a game where you can almost kind of say, okay, case in point, this is why the playoffs are a 7 game series. Because I thought Carolina for the most part dominated that game,
They did.
like wasn't even close really. Like I think at one point they were out shooting them, what, like 11 to nothing. But
Yes.
again, the curse of the Hurricanes, you come out in the first period, you dominate, but even with 20 minutes of just not giving the team anything, it's a one lucky bounce game, and that's the position that they put themselves in.
Yes. So obviously Anderson started in this game, and I think the reasonable Hurricanes fan would probably say, listen, Anderson, he probably played a pretty good game, but you compare him to the likes of, I completely forgot his name. What was it? Andrew.
Of course, I was hoping that you were going to say it too. Where
Dobesh.
Dobesh, yeah, it's one of those names that doesn't read how it's spelt. It looks like, because it
Yeah.
looks supposed to be
Mhm.
like Dobies,
Yeah,
but
Dobesh.
Dobesh.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dovesh, yeah, two really impressive games by him, man. Montreal's no joke, and I think that's something I've been noticing from the Canes fans on Twitter. Is I think we need to reevaluate who we consider to be a bottom feeder or a bad loss, because I think sometimes we have kind of preconceived notions about teams, or kind of like what we were talking about with like Keandre Miller. I think some people, once they have their mind made up about a player or a team, it's hard to break out of that.
Yes.
uh,
Hmm.
Montreal's legit. Montreal could come out of the East this year. That's a darn good team. A team that, if we meet in the playoffs, I think we should beat. The Canes should beat. But I think you can look at games like this and say, well, the Canes played really well. I think they had their number. just got to convert on these chances. But I think the goaltending played well enough. Obviously, the power play contributed. So you don't want to put too much of a silver lining. I'm not a big, taking a loss for anything other than a loss type of guy. But I don't think either of these games are worthy of the sky is falling mentality. It just sucks that it's against the same team. So that's where the concern creeps in.
It really is, and the fact that you can see them in the playoffs, you just wonder. But I mean, just going through the goals real quick, Andrew Svet, she scores on the power play again. We talked about a power play. I'm not going to say it again, but great goal from Svet. Like, I mean, he's mainly been known, Andrew, historically for his wrist shots, but his slap shots have been pretty good as of
Yeah.
late.
Yeah, he's definitely added that to the arsenal, and that's been one of the main reasons that the power play has gotten better is that he can do those one time just rifles like that one. But yeah, just put the puck, just cleaned it off the iron. We can't really ask for much more than that. Short of the goaltender being in absolute perfect position, you're not going to stop that. So I think that goal is one though where when you start off like that, you almost feel like, okay, now we're going to get rolling. And in terms of everything but finishing, they did.
Yeah, they did. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the score here,
You're good.
but Suzuki, Caulfield, and Suzuki. So Suzuki got 2 goals, and Caulfield got the one. Again, I don't really blame Anderson, like especially on the power play Suzuki goal for Montreal. I really don't blame him for that. To me, the only goal where I think he could, it's not a bad goal, but savable, is the Caulfield goal. I feel like he could have gotten that if he was at the top of his game.
Yeah, could have maybe kept the hole between his blocker side and his body a little bit smaller. But then again, that's also Cole Caulfield with
It
a
is.
wide open shot at the net. So not all wide open wrist shots are created equal, and there's few that are more deadly than Cole Caulfield. So I think this is a game where you have to look at the guys in front of Freddie and just say, hey, he did his job and then some. Because I thought it was really impressive how they held Montreal without a shot for so long, and then the first shot that he faces is a grade A chance right in front, and he was ready.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I
Well,
think that's the biggest key to being a successful goaltender with the Canes is can you stay focused for those long stretches where between their forechecking and their defensive coverage that you're just not seeing a whole lot of action, and then out of nowhere there's a grade A.
yes, I would agree with that. But there's also the other side of the fact that and listen, I'm going to give Svesh some grace because he scored, but and again, like I do agree the Hurricanes played so dominant throughout most of this game. But the good play is, I would say, at the end of the day, is wasted because the most important thing is getting those goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get them, that good play means nothing. And so, while yes, we got goalied, I'm sorry, Aho Jarvis. Again, I know you guys played well, but you gotta up it a little bit more with more being like, I mean, Caulfield and Suzuki, they're top players, need little to no time in order to score, and then you still have Svetch and Aho and probably Jarvis. Again, I'm willing to give Svetch some grace because he did score, but the fact that they have to take almost an entire game to score is a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that top line's getting no puck luck at all because they have been generating chances. But I mean, this has been the issue with this core group of players come playoff times every time. It's not the structure for as much, at least in my opinion. I don't think it has anything to do with Rod's coaching. I think
No,
it
it
has.
doesn't.
I think the past few seasons it has little to do with goaltending. I actually think people talking about the goaltending being the biggest concern with this team. I think it's I'm not going to call it a lazy take. I think it's one of those, the national media says it because they just don't have the time to watch this team every
Mhm.
single game the way that we do. It's always been in a 1-1 game against a, Bobrovsky or a Shesterkin, if it's a 1-1 game in the third period, do you have somebody that can come through clutch and score a big goal?
And we
And
don't have that. That's the thing.
yeah, they sure have. Now, there's been clutch moments with this team, so we know that
Yeah,
there's
there
players
has.
who have that gene in them, which is why I get why they want to keep this core together and keep running it back with a few additions here and there. Ehlers being a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still a lot to be optimistic about with this team, but I think this game really sums up to me what the real issue with this team is that there's just a lack of finishing. And it sounds like such an simplification of what this team needs to do better, but it's just, you just need guys who shoot better. Like, or at least you need guys to live up to their talents because we know that Jarvis, Svetch, Aho can all finish. So it's not a huge concern for me just yet. You know, again, like I was saying, that this time of the year with the playoffs all but locked, I'm looking for process. I'm looking for details to slowly ramp up as we get closer. And that to me right now is the biggest thing that I have circled is can that top line get going again?
Oh
And not
yeah,
just play
definitely.
well, but convert.
Yeah, and like, I mean, they were down at 3-1 heading to the third period, Andrew, and I thought like heading into that third period, I was like, I want to see Angry Aho. This is the game where we need to see Angry Aho, and we didn't really see it.
Mhm.
You can say how good he was, but we all know when Angry Aho's on, we know it when it happens, and we didn't see it.
Yeah, that third period in particular, it just not that they gave up by any means, but they looked kind of tight. Like you could tell that
Yeah,
they were shocked that they were in that situation
exactly.
because for 40 minutes they dominated. Like, can you remember a period where a team gave up three goals where they were the better team? I can't off the top of my head, and that's what the Canes did tonight. So you know, I think there's a lot from this game that you can take to build on to be like, okay, if we do this in 100 games, we're going to win 80 of them and be content with that. But you also need to, they need to embrace the sting that comes with losing a game like this because that's a team that's coming for you. That's not, Pittsburgh, who granted you might see you should win. That's not one of the two wild card teams who, granted, I have my concerns about Columbus, but you should
Hmm.
win those games. Montreal is I think a legitimate threat, and they've got some confidence going now because they took maybe not two of your best shots, but you definitely gave them a good game, and their goalie was able to carry them, and that does wonders for a team's confidence.
It really really does. It's just like if I had to pick between the two teams who I would want on my team, I mean, I'd probably pick Suzuki and Caulfield as my duo of the likes of probably Aho and Svetch or Aho and Jarvis. I just would. Because I just from the way Montreal plays, I think they're more naturally skilled than our top players. So they don't need much.
Could be. It seems like they also play just very different brands of hockey, which that is where you can have the legitimate argument and it not be, Bryn Moore slander, which again, we don't tolerate Rod the Bod slander in this house. But, maybe there is something to be said down the road about, maybe a different system would allow guys like this to be unlocked a bit. But I just think Cole Caulfield is just one of the more naturally gifted finishers in this game, and
Oh,
that's not
he
to take
is.
away from Suzuki. But I bet if you put Aho with a winger like Caulfield, who can actually bury some of these chances, because we've seen it when Jarvis or Svetch, if not both, are hot. Like how many amazing opportunities Aho creates. So I think you might be right to take the two of them, but it's close. I think as far as like
It
the
is
dynamic,
close, but I'd take the two.
yeah, it's hard to judge entirely because of the system. Because if we're talking defensively, I mean, Aho and Jarvis are both pretty locked down forwards.
Oh, they are. I think if I were to play a defensive sounded game, I'd probably take Aho and Jarvis, probably over Suzuki and Caulfield. But at the same time, I mean, if I want to get goals and it's not easy to get goals in this league.
No.
He probably takes Suzuki and Caulfield. So it's just I I feel like this game really did kind of expose the lack of star power that the Hurricanes had. And the thing is, like, I mean, I remember you talking about like Brendan Moore's system just a few seconds ago. Like, obviously, we tried the whole Rantanen experience. We tried the whole Gensel experience. That worked out, but Canes
Mm-hmm.
cheaped out on Gensel. We tried the Rantanen. Obviously, Rantanen didn't want to be here, but I think one thing for sure, if I had to predict what Tulski's going to do, because he wants that star player, and I think Tulski kind of sees we need it. I think once we get that star player, then all eyes are now on Brindamore. And if that star player doesn't get you 40 goals like he did with his previous team, I think that's when the questions come in on Brindamore. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about the serious questions.
Yeah. And I think that that's fair. I think I think to have this conversation, you have to, take what Rod has done as a coach and put that on one plate. And then you have to then take everything that he's meant to this franchise, which this is kind of the tricky thing about
He
bringing
deserves a
people
statue. Like, he's done a lot
sure.
for it. Yeah.
For sure.
Just
And
have questions.
I don't think he should be seen as being on the hot seat or anything. I mean,
No.
their first place in the division could. It's not hard to imagine a world where this team gets hot at the right time and goes on to win the cup. Like it's not hard to see it happening. Is it maybe the safest, smartest bet? Probably not. But I think that this team is positioned to give it a good crack, and it's just a matter of these guys stepping up and taking advantage of the opportunities that Rod's system creates. But you're right. Come, maybe not even next year, the year after, if this Canes have the summer that I think they're set up to have between the cap space, the prospects, the draft picks that they have.
It's going to come eventually.
Yeah, well, I think that they've set themselves up good. And I think, even though the trade deadline, we were all kind of disappointed by, I think big picture, it probably goes down as kind of the smarter move, because I look at the guys who are moved and I'm like, do any of these guys like super move the needle for how I feel about this team? Not particularly. So you give this, what's looking like a division winning, possibly first place in the Eastern Conference team. They must be awful. You take them into the playoffs, you give them an honest crack, and then you build on it this offseason if you have to. But I think, I really think it all just I think this whole playoff run hinges on what that top line is going to do, because we've seen two sides of it where when it's clicking, it looks great. And even when it's been bad, like there's been very few games where it's been like invisible, but they need to convert. And that's the biggest thing. That goal, that line needs to be producing at least a goal a game in the playoffs. It just does.
Yep, especially Otto, since considering he's mostly been known, if you look at his stats in past years, he's known to get you around 30 to 35 goals, and I just don't think he's going to hit 30 goals this season. So,
no, he might not, but Aho is an underrated playoff performer. I think he's someone who understands the concept of this is different. I think angry
I do too.
comes out a lot.
The most important thing is how he does in the playoffs. I will admit to that.
Yep. So again, I'm not trying to, gold plate a turd by calling this loss anything other than it is, but just try to zoom out, everybody. Look at the bigger picture and just look for these systems and these players to gradually heat up as we get down the stretch, because there's 10 games left. So
9 games. I think.
So
yeah.
And against some real stiff competition the next 5 games too. Like we're basically getting playoff previews these next 5 games, and then there's that long road trip at the end against some of the bottom feeders of the league. That'll be a good time for them to really kind of get the offense going, get some good feelings. But I'd say this last stretch, y'all try not to get too high, try not to get too low. it's all about getting to the playoffs healthy and with guys clicking and feeling good about their games.
Question: do you think that Brendan Moore during these last maybe few games, whatever of the season, you think he's going to start resting players or no?
I
Because
think he,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. I think he has to. You know, you need guys like Kokaniemi and Laurier's the season ice time to kind of shake the cobwebs a bit. You know, whether he likes it or not, the odds of KK not seeing a game or two in the playoffs, I mean, it's gonna happen. And we know that if he's on his game, he can even contribute quite a bit. So I think once the division is locked up, I think you start rotating some guys in and out. Maybe even just have Kokaniemi and Delorier as permanent fixtures in your lineup, and just have a revolving door of guys getting a game, because at this point in the season, rest is absolutely a weapon.
Do you think this team is more focused on resting players than possibly winning a conference? Possibly.
Uh, Hard
Because
to tell at this point, because
it's very hard.
Buffalo's right there, and I mean you can just tell from how the guys are playing that there is just a different. There's an it's understandable in a lot of ways. There's a different intensity they're playing with than, say, like games against Montreal, or even
Mhm.
more so when we played against Columbus. You can tell there's one team that wants to play well, wants to win, is playing very, very hard. But if we had to pick between, in these last 9 games, the Canes go 3-6, but they make it healthy, or they go 8-1 and they're tired, you'll take the 3-6 and everybody's healthy. And that's such a hard mindset to get out of and fully give your, leaving it all on the ice competition. And that's not an excuse, but human nature creeps in a little bit, and I can't say that I
Yep.
blame them, because I'm ready for the season to
Oh, I am
be over
too.
too. Bring on the playoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, I am too. It's just with the way the top of the conference is shaking out, like we just don't know who's going to win it yet. So it's just like, do they start resting players or do they not? Because I can see the argument for and against it.
Yeah, because Buffalo looks good, man. They look really
Oh, they do.
dangerous. But that's one of the things that's interesting about the Eastern Conference this year is, a lot of those other fixtures we're used to seeing aren't there. There's no Rangers, there's no Panthers. Like, yeah, there's Tampa, who's going to be really dangerous, but it so many of the teams that are going to make it, it's their first time in a long time. And Buffalo wouldn't be the first team to have an amazing regular season, and then that's that group's first time in the
Yeah.
playoffs, and they realize it's a whole different game. Because say what you will about the Canes, those are some grizzled playoff vets at this point. They're not going to be surprised by anything, caught off guard by anything. And even right now, as frustrated as we might be talking about the Montreal game, I have no doubt that they're already dialed in and looking forward to what's next, and just kind of going through the motions right now.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Well, Andrew, great episode once again. And we will see you guys next time.